Hello, everyone. I have Sam with us. She is a TC, and if you don't know what a TC is, we're going to explain that here in a second. I'm Josh with Notary Online and Joshua J Online, and I have a special guest, transaction coordinator out of California, Miss Samantha Markham. I'm going to bring her onto the stage here in a second, and she's going to explain a little bit more about who she is and what she does. And this might be a little extra side hustle or something important, at least, to know as a notary or a signing agent, which most of you are. So here we go. Let me bring her onto the stage. Hi, Miss Sam. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful this morning, Josh. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? Is it Markham or Markrum?
I was Markram. It actually, most people know me as that, but I went, snuck off and got married. So it's Markram Hayes now.
All right. I like it. That's right. Samantha Hayes. So One Stop TC. Now, I initially invited you to speak and have a conversation because I have been a notary since 2018, and I may have crossed the term at some point, but I never really I never clicked for any reason. So I thought it was really neat. I saw some of your YouTube videos and I said, man, that's an interesting kind of like little medium, right? So if you don't mind, if you could please do an introduction for yourself, because you would do yourself more justice than I would, and
Okay.
then if you could just explain kind of what a transaction coordinator is.
So I'm Sam Hayes. I've been doing this almost 20 years next year. I basically am a paper pusher for real estate. I am a forms nerd. I am all about anything and everything related to real estate documentation. San Diego County is actually one of the hardest counties in the entire nation. We have more documents than anybody else. So there's about 80 pieces of paper to chase. When you buy and sell a house, you have different documents that you disclose about the history, anything that's gone wrong, if caught on fire, all that fun stuff. So that's my job, is to be an expert in all of this great paperwork. And I work from home, done it for years. I actually have also been a notary. I need to renew all of my fun stuff. And if you like the portion of being in a notary where you like the documents, making sure everything's done correctly, double checking, like checking those boxes, this is a totally something you could be into.
Excellent. So you're like the unsung hero of the entire thing.
We definitely are more like as I explain to people a lot, imagine it's like a studio. So you've got your agents or the talent. So you
Okay.
got to handle your talent. And then the studio is kind of like escrow, that's our bank. And we're the producers running around trying to keep everybody happy. And the brokers are the heads to make sure that they like how everything's going. So you got to
Okay.
keep everybody coordinated, but you got to make sure you manage your talent, but also get your info to everybody to get the job done.
And so you're out of California. Are the California laws and rules and all that different from the rest of the states? Kind of like in
Yes.
the notary world, or okay?
Yes. Same
All right.
thing. The way California is a little bit more intense than anywhere else. We're the sue me state. So the same level of that we've got on our real estate side too.
Okay. What's required to be a transaction coordinator?
There's actually really no requirements. There are certifications. I am a certified transaction coordinator. I chose to become a realtor because I'm third generation real estate in my family. I didn't like showing property. I don't want anybody in my car. I sing too much. So there's really nothing technically. It's something that eventually I think there's going to be requirement. I'm a huge fan of being licensed, because if I'm going to go toe to toe with somebody and tell them that they're incorrect, I want as much alphabet soup behind my name as possible.
Okay. So age restrictions, anything like that? Is it no?
Nope.
It's just, if you can do the job and you're certified. And by certified, is there a specific training that they have to go through from the state, or I guess who says, you know what, that course works?
So it's the California Association of Realtors
Okay.
that does a lot of our training for us. You can do the training, member or not. There's always a discount, of course. If you're a member, you can't become a member if you're not licensed. All the same thing like National Notary Association, where they have the different, if you become the member, same type of thing.
Okay.
And then there's really not, you don't have to be certified. I'm a fan of education, so I'm saying it's a good idea. But you
Right.
can go train with you can train with an agent, you can train with a brokerage, train under another TC. It's kind of like real estate and some of the notary stuff. You take a bunch of courses, then fly the nest, go give it a whirl.
Right. So it's more not necessarily a certification required by law, but more of a rule of thumb in the industry. It's kind of expected that you have the NNA certification, but for TC. Okay.
It's encouraged. And I
Gotcha.
would say encouraged.
Okay. Excellent. Now, give me a ballpark, because I know this is what a lot of the notaries are going to be wondering when they see this. They're going to say, yep, exactly. They're going to say, hey, you know what, TC, transaction coordinator, right? Sounds cool, sounds flashy, right? It's in the notary world. I'm kind of familiar with that already. But how much are we making, right? So if you don't mind giving us a little ballpark there.
Okay, so this is going to change. This is like just like being a notary. You know, if you go out with a signing service, they take a cut because they got the job for you. But when you're doing your own hustle and you're a direct relationship with a lender or something else, you can charge a different fee because you don't have that middleman going on. So independent TCs tend to charge more because we have our own equipment and everything else. Brokerage in-house, you do get the benefit of the broker having things. It's a sliding scale. So I've seen TCs make, 300 a file up to 750 a file. But that depends on how much work you're doing, what you're doing, your relationship, your experience, all of that fun stuff. So it's definitely, you got to start somewhere. And it can take 30 to 60 to, now that the market's extending, 90 days to get paid. So it's definitely not a quick fix to get money, but it's a great long-term, especially because you're already working with and meeting agents and everything else. Being a notary, it's an easy slide in. It's an easy connection for it. An average TC in California should be able to make 50 to 75 a year, and that's lowballing. But that's gross. That's not net. That's gross.
Right. Is that based on is that based on percentage of like the real estate agent's commission, or is that part of the title? Like, who pays for that? Is it the seller's responsibility, or how does that work?
And well, that depends too on the agent and the brokerage. Typically, it's the agents. It's a portion of their commission because they're the ones paying you to do the work and everything else. However, some, like a loan processor, can put it out and they will charge their clients.
Okay. So when you market yourself, are you an independent, or are you
I am independent. I run with scissors. I can't be in a brokerage.
I like it. So who do you like? I guess, who's your customer? Who do you market to when you want work? Who are you hitting up?
I go and hit up all of the, I'm big on, as you've met me through my YouTube videos, I've been huge on training for years because there's a lot of nitty gritty. We get the general, as we all know, when you guys are out doing notary stuff, but when you're in the process, there are these things that go wrong and you learn from. So my stuff is YouTube, Facebook, referrals, and escrow companies and title, because they know I'll make sure it goes through. And they know I'll make sure everything gets babysat. So it's a benefit for me to be on the file to help out, especially when there are other. I tend to focus personally on smaller brokerages, boutique brokerages, one-off brokers, people who maybe do 5 to 10 deals a year, but same kind of energy. They don't want to work for the big brokerage and all that stuff.
So maybe individuals like, so what I tell my notaries when we talk marketing and that kind of stuff, right? I tell them, hey, it's going to be, in theory, about 3 sets or 3 levels of escrow, title officers, et cetera, that you might be hitting up, right? The small, little more independent ones, right? They're doing, a handful of closings a month kind of thing that they can do themselves. They typically try to close in-house, that kind of stuff, right? The very far, high quantity versions that expect all these extra requirements because they don't have time to really get to know you. It's kind of, make sure you check these blocks and then maybe I'll give you a shot because they're doing so many. And the people in between who are they've scaled up past the kind of independent, but they're not really at that high quantity level. So, they still remember that interpersonal relationship piece. At the same time, they have so much work that they can't close themselves. So they have to hire out, kind of thing. So is that very similar with?
Very.
Okay. All right. So then we're looking for individuals like that who are trying to, I don't want to say outsource, but get that extra hand and an extra set of eyes on and the coordinator piece. That way they can go work on making more business. Is that right?
Exactly. And what you're saying is very similar to when you get into the bigger ones. As you know, there's the different requirements. They're like, just, this is the requirements. It's not as much personal. Those typically tend to be more of the in-house TCs where they want them hired on staff. And then they'll have their own requirements regarding licensing, scheduling, and that type of situation.
Do you have to be a TC in the same state that you're TCing in?
No.
No,
you do not. I know several. So California is so big that I don't TC in other states. This is enough to know.
right.
But many of the TCs, because of the group I actually have a group of we're up to 3,300 TCs cross country that we all connect. And there are TCs back east because the states are so close. it's easy for them to do multiple states at a time because the amount to drive for me to LA, they've already hit 3 states.
Wow, that's
I
nothing.
know, it blows my mind. They also they have different paperwork requirements, and
Yeah,
sometimes they'll hear us out in California talking about all the disclosures we have, and they're like, "What are you? You guys have lost your minds?" And then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we finished. We where I can do 30 in a month by myself, they're doing 100, 150 because it's such a different paperwork level, but they get
right.
paid at a different rate too. So it's a hard thing to compare. Sometimes you got
Yeah.
to go with where your area is and what is required for the area."
Do you, would you happen to have an idea of which state would be the easiest for a TC?
See, they all okay. I am very biased. I am completely. They all seem easier to me than California. Like they hear how much we do.
Yeah.
Everything else sounds like cake. And I've been told if you can get a California or a New York real estate license, you can get one anywhere else. No problem.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
totally believe that.
yeah. It's
God
like,
God bless California, but man,
oh,
I'm a,
dude, it's hard. I know we're a lot.
I mean, if the notary world for California is just a glimpse at the rest of it, then yeah, I completely understand. I get that. So really, the answer is any state that's not California will be easiest
Yeah,
or
New York though
simpler.
I've heard is New York. I have heard is hard. I've heard New York can be a little difficult, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely it's easier. It's
Well, then
different. I'm just gonna say different.
let me ask you this. I know you said that you stay in California because you have enough work there and all that kind of good stuff. But given the amount of extra paperwork, disclosures, etc., um, would it have you thought about it? Is it less lucrative than or more lucrative than going to another state and just doing more quantity instead of because I want to say that the fees or your commission your amount of money that you make in California is going to be higher, I would assume, than any other state because it's California, right? And does that play a factor, or how is that? I'm just curious if that ever crossed your mind.
My choice was I tried doing everything. I used to try and do everything, and I definitely at some point, if in this grand scheme of everything, I wouldn't mind being licensed in Arizona and Nevada as well. That would not hurt. I wouldn't be upset about it. But I went laser focused, and I have become such a forms nerd expert that I live and breathe California forms to the point that my dream is to be able to be like up on when they're doing the forms revisions and be like, "You have no idea what you're talking about," and go fight the good fight up in Sacramento. That's my goal. That's what I shifted to. Is it totally possible? Yes. Do I know people that do California and the other states? Completely. The further north you go, like San Francisco is completely its own entity. They have all of their own disclosures, plus the state disclosures. San Francisco and San Diego are two of the most intense disclosure wise, and the other counties are catching up because they all meet together. They talk and go, "Oh, we should have this one too." You meet somebody and you kind of just keep raising the bar
Yeah.
type thing. So there's enough here. I think it's cool, but I do well enough. I like being the forms nerd, and it's served me well, so I just stay put.
Do you ever run into let's say that you get hired, right? Somebody hires you on and says, "Hey, you know what? We're going to do, this signing, this package, whatever, whatever the terminology is, I guess for you guys." Do you ever run into anybody when you're trying to coordinate it and put the pieces together, etc., who's like, "Who are you and what are you doing?
Oh,
What's the?"
yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it's better now. It's a lot better now. We've been
Okay.
fighting. We honestly, the group I'm part of, and we've been advocates for saying, "Hey, we make a difference." And we were seen as just be seen and not heard. Don't talk. The TCs don't know anything. They're just checking signatures. They're just checking boxes. And that's something I've been advocating for years and years and years about. We need to know exactly what's on these forms because we're checking every single one, and it's your choice what level. Same as notary. You can go dive super deep and
Hmm.
be that rules person, or you can, do whatever works best for you.
Right.
But you've got some old school. There's definitely some old school brokers and agents who have no clue who we are. Why are they talking to us? What am I doing? Just shut up and push the papers. That's not as much
Okay.
as it used to be.
So not so much of a what is a TC kind of thing, but more of a why is this TC? Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I could see that.
yeah,
I'm sure over the years. You said you've been doing this for what?
almost
20
20,
years, almost
almost 20
20.
in April.
So I'm assuming it's gotten a lot better in terms of I don't want to say, man, I'm so bad with words today. With clout, with the
Process.
reputation, you know.
Yeah, I think things have changed with one. It's helped with knowing once with certification came about, because I'd been in TC for a while, and then came up with certification for the state. And then I became also a forms trainer. So I am certified to train on all these forms, because if I'm going to be looking at them all day, I want to be an expert.
Right.
And so it's definitely changed. It's much faster now that we're electronic. I mean, I've done it that long that I remember when we had giant files that were like this and paperwork. So you can do many more than you could before. And systems, there's so much software now that didn't exist before. It's not all good, but there's a lot of software. So, and DocuSign has changed our lives. It really has changed our lives completely.
Wow. The software that you're mentioning and whatnot, is that specific to transaction coordinators, or is that like a real estate platform that you're referencing?
There's different ones. So different brokerages have their own in-house proprietary software that they use that for uploading files, so that the broker is supposed to retain the file. So the broker is supposed to have access to the file at all times. So depending on what they're doing and whatnot, there's also statewide software. There's multiple platforms that different people use. All of them basically are just to have the documents so that somebody can get to them if they get audited.
Okay. That sounds like a lot to keep up with.
It's it's you either really love this or you go, wow, that was not my best life choice. That's like
so okay. So let's talk some parallels with the notary world, right?
totally.
So in the notary world, because that's what most of the individuals who I speak with are either entering into because it sounds interesting, or they're already in it, right? And they
Right.
like it. So people person, attention to detail, right? Paperwork oriented, self-driven, those kind of things. I'm assuming that parallels for the transaction coordinator, but what extra traits, or what would you say, you know what, if you naturally think like this or do this, you're going to do really well as a TC?
Accountability, being aware of time frames, being able to time manage, interest, being able to deal with multiple personalities with multiple reaction times, follow up. It's a lot of follow up. It's a lot of reminding people and stalking for paperwork. A continued interest in learning, because there's always we get new forms twice a year. The contract's already been revised majorly twice in the past 7 years. You've got to want to always be learning. You've got to be interested in that. No day, same as I know it's with notary stuff. No day's ever the same. So if you want a routine, you want it to be very structured.
Right.
Work for a brokerage, or there are some options, but there's always an adventure. And I've done almost 7,000 files, and there's always something shocking. Every day there's something new that I'm like, are you kidding me? Where did this come from?
Wow, that's crazy. So let me ask you this then. So in the notary world, we have the unauthorized practice of law, right? So I found in talking with, I'd say I'm close to at least 1,000 notaries. The biggest issue that I've seen that's common is that they don't know where that line is of practicing unauthorized practice of law. And so their biggest thing is they want to help. And the more that I have found from my experience, and there's no data that I just pulled up, whatnot. It's just from me talking to them. It seems like the more they learn about the forms, right, and the more they learn about the process and the overall industry, the more inclined they are to breaching that line of unauthorized practice of law, because they want to help, the buyer, whoever the signer is, right, and give them that extra little information that they know. So it's almost like the less they know, right, the better it is for them, because it kind of saves them from themselves, kind of thing. How does that work with a transaction coordinator? If you're doing all this extra knowledge and you really want to understand the industry and all that kind of good stuff, is there that risk of any kind of unauthorized practice of law? Is that not even a thing? Is it just like, how does that compute?
It's more catching the agents doing the unpracticed law. We have the issue of contract law and changing the terms of the contract.
Okay.
And that's our bigger issue. Or you have a TC jumping in and changing an answer from a seller because we know it's in an HOA. So they're changing a box. And so how I've dealt with it, because you're right, because I see it and I'm like, oh, we can fix this. Push it back to everybody, push it back to the agents, typically go, hey, you might want to review these items. You want to get back to these, take a look at it. talk to the agent, talk to the broker, have them fix it, and then we start over and then we get it corrected. It's hard. It's super hard. It's part of why I personally am becoming a broker so I can jump in, and but that's again another level
Yeah.
of all that stuff because it's you've got to watch it. You've got to stay in your lane. And but
Yeah.
at the same time you want to help everybody so you've got to see where all the lanes are going, but also remember what's yours.
It sounds like doing it right or doing it correctly and like 100% to the T, to the letter of the law, right? Um, is very, I want to say extra, but it's very much probably not the norm also. Because in my mind, I feel like it seems to me that based off of basic real estate documents, right? Um, signer signs a document, buyer or seller kind of thing, signs a document, but they have some spaces that are still blank, right? A checkbox that's blank, a space that's blank, maybe even a date it's supposed to go in there for when they took residence or what have you. Um, in my mind, when I see that on the forums and the notary's already sent off the packaging and that was blank, someone's got to fill that out, right? And after it's already been signed, I guess the real 100% correct answer and legal answer is, well, you can't change the document anymore, right? Without getting some kind of initials from the people who had to sign it or a re-signed document or what have you. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have addendums. We do have a lot of addendums and a lot of
Yeah.
specific addendums to do things because stuff gets missed all the time. And
That,
that's part of the reviewing process before. If you're on the seller side, you should be reviewing your disclosures before you send them to the buyer side. If you're on the buyer side, you should be reviewing them before you let the buyer sign them for anything missing and kick them back.
that
So
sounds like
it is a lot of paperwork review. I go through probably 300 to 500 emails a day, easily.
dang.
Easily.
I bet you a lot of people try to cut those corners though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
I got
notorious.
it like this.
Yeah, it's fine. I think I have a wanted poster in multiple brokerages of like the most annoying TC.
That's funny. Um, Man, okay. So how long does one project take? Like, so one, you get hired for one job or one, what would you call them? You call them signings? You call
A
them
file. Yeah, we
file?
just call
Okay.
them file.
So you start a file about on average, if you had to put a number to it, how long would one file take?
Okay, so I'm an expert at this point, and I can look through it. And if I have everybody participating, everybody paying attention, honestly, I could do an entire file. The amount of hours during the process of the escrow is probably 3.5 to 4, if that.
Okay.
And that's follow up, double checking. If it's not, that's perfect scenario. Some can take 20 hours, some can take 2 hours. It really depends on how coordinated, how educated, how did we get organized. All of that really makes a difference. Your relationship with the agent, everything else. A good solid flow for a newer TC is 20 to 20 files on your own is pretty healthy. Inside of a brokerage, they have different rules and regs. So you're doing a different auditing. So that changes.
Mm, okay. And when you talk about hours, are you talking about consecutive or are you talking about over the span of days?
Over the span of days.
Okay. Gotcha. Wow. Okay. And so if the average TC has 20, 25 files and it could vary, right? Especially if they're working in different states.
Yes.
Are there checklists that are available, or does the TC typically just have their own checklist, or does a broker provide a checklist, or how does that come about? How would I keep myself organized?
So we had to get them from the broker back in the day. That's changed now. CAR came out. They didn't want to because of liability for a very long time.
Makes
They
sense.
finally gave us a very bare bones because the contract walks you through what's there. Then you have different brokerages that will have their own specific because they have proprietary disclosures specific to their brokerage.
Right.
So what I've learned for myself over the years is if somebody adds, all of a sudden there's a new requirement on one file, I do it on every single file across the board. We just keep leveling up and leveling up. And then there are all the risk management, additional, not required, but somebody got sued, so that's why we have them.
Yeah. There's always a result, right?
Yeah, every paragraph's a result. Somebody got sued, and I don't need to be the poster child again. So why don't we get that signed? So it's one of those things where you kind of create your own, and then your different brokerages, and you have your little add-ons and things that you just work around. But you can start. There is one from the California Association of Realtors now.
And now you bring up the somebody got sued as a result. There's this paragraph. Now the sue me state. Now it makes all sense on why there's 50,000 disclosures. Okay.
Yep. Totally.
Like, I'm sure it clicked at some point in my life, but it really just clicked right now. Like that makes 1,000% sense.
It's when I have to explain why I'm giving somebody a stack, or used to back in the day, like this big. And I'm like, okay, this is all because people got sued. Let's just work our way through.
Man, that's a funny phenomenon. When
Yeah.
I was in the Marine Corps way back when, and we were in Iraq in '04, and we visited an army base, and to go eat some chow. And in the very front, there's this big pole, right, with kind of like a half barrel kind of thing with a bunch of blue beads and a big sign that said, "Beads are for the flies. Do not eat." And we started laughing. We're like, somebody ate these.
Somebody eats them. Yeah. That's where it's like
Somebody ate these.
we
Yeah,
have a
but that's
golf
that's funny.
course one. Somebody got hit in the head with a golf ball and sued that we have to disclose. We've got, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, no, I've got some random ones where it's, if the roads get slick when it rains, you need to be aware, all sorts of random things.
That's crazy. That's interesting. So then what would you say is the greatest obstacle that a transaction coordinator would face? Not a brand new one. Let's just say an average to, well-seasoned transaction coordinator. What would be the biggest obstacle?
Um, Two things. It's really hard dealing with getting business. That's one is, generating, being self-driven, all of that. That's always an ongoing. The other one is honestly staying true to yourself and not being a people pleaser. Being able to stand up and say no, call the broker. You have to be you are the hall monitor. You are the tattletailer. You are the one who has to go stop. And you have to be solid enough to know that as I tell my agents, I'd rather you're pissed at me for 30 minutes and I just delayed your escrow than we're spending the next 9 months dealing with this in a lawsuit and you just lost your commission.
Ooh, valid, fair point. And so given the hall monitor scenario or analogy, principal would be the broker.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's ultimately who you would be answering to and deriving the authority from.
Broker is ultimately responsible for all actions by the agents. I'm underneath that agent. So
Gotcha.
even though my license is at another brokerage, I have to act as an unlicensed when I work outside of it. There's a whole little
Right.
dance you do. And so I am going to be the first. My license is that's my livelihood. If you're
Yeah.
risking my license, I am going to go tell everybody. We're tattling.
I
Nope.
like it. I like it. So what is your favorite piece or part about being a TC?
I love knowing I've helped people have better lives. I'm my nickname in my group of friends is Fairy Godmother. So I get to help make dreams come true every single
Yeah.
day for my agents, for their clients. I get to be part of a dream, and that's really rad.
That's awesome. What do you absolutely just would rather do without?
The attitudes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you watched Joanna Gaines' School of Shiplap Real Estate on HGTV, but no, I'm sorry, honey. Just because you're selling real estate, we all put our pants on the same way. So
That's funny. God bless attitude.
God bless attitude. That's the biggest one I think I could do without sometimes.
That's crazy. Now, and so you also train, right? You train and you mentor?
I'm starting to. I definitely am starting to. I'm doing a lot. There's a ton on my YouTube channel, and slowly I'm working my way towards it. We'll see where we'll see where the universe leads, but that's kind of where I'm starting to get a little burnout on doing files all the time, and I have way too much knowledge in my head. So we'll see where I end up.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I'm definitely going to be tagging your YouTube channel in the
Awesome.
description for this video. And so do you have a course or any kind of and by the way, everybody who's watching this on the replay, I have no affiliate link and I have no kind of extra incentive on this. Just trying to provide some information for everybody.
Well,
So,
and
Miss Sam.
I greatly appreciate it. This time, no, it's just follow me on YouTube. Welcome to join our TC group. If you're interested in becoming a TC, I can connect you with TCs across the country for specific states. There are multiple subgroups have created since we started our group about 13 years ago, which is awesome. So there's plenty of support out there. You just got to be willing to work for it. We're not going to do the work for you. That's the one thing is we have a lot of newer TCs are like, tell me this. It's like, okay, I'll give you this, but you got to put the work in.
Right. That makes sense. You know what? And that's a great point. I am seeing a huge influx in people who are I don't want to say get rich quick, but they're trying to get that quick side hustle, and it's like, some of these industries are not built for that, buddy. But
Yeah, this is expect first 6 months could be a little dicey to a year, honestly. But if you really work at it and can do it, it's pretty lucrative.
Excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Don't go anywhere after we end this. I want to talk to you on the side while
Of
we're
course.
still in the studio and whatnot. And hopefully, if anybody who is watching this replay is interested in knowing more about a transaction coordinator or what a transaction coordinator does outside of YouTube or outside of Google, please feel free to reach out to Miss Sam. I'm sure she'd be happy to help you out and answer any kind of questions. Join her Facebook group and see where you can go from there. But once again, I am Josh with Joshua J Online and with Notary Online. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you next time.